In this session, we want to talk about configuring the direct access client and configuring the direct access server. We want to click on Tools, Remote Access Management, and in the left-hand pane, we want to click on Direct Access and VPN to bring up the wizard. And we want to choose Run the Remote Access Setup Wizard. And we're going to use this wizard to configure direct access with custom settings. So we're going to click on Run the Remote Access Setup Wizard. And the option that we want to choose here is to deploy direct access only. And this is going to configure direct access on the server and also enable direct access for clients. So we want to choose this option. Any question that you get on direct access in the exam will most likely come from the option of configuring the server and the client computers. So we want to go ahead and click. And we have 4 steps in configuring direct access, and we're going to go through them one by one. The first step is to identify client computers that will be enabled for direct access. Now, before you get to this step, you would have needed to go into Active Directory, create an OU, create a group in that OU, and add the client computers that you want to enable direct access for within that group, so that when we're going through step 1, we'll be able to select that group. So we want to go ahead and click on Configure. You have 2 choices here, 2 scenarios. You can deploy full direct access for client and remote management. That would mean that you are enabling the client to access your internal network, but management, which would be you, the administrator, is also able to access that client computer. The second option is if you only want to configure direct access for managing the remote computer, the remote client computer. For our session, we're going to go with the first one, where you can do both. The administrator can remotely manage the client computers, and the client computers can access the internal network. So we want to go ahead and click Next. Now, this deployment scenario here, we are at the point where we need to add those client computers. So you want to click on Add. And we're going to search for those computers. I'm going to click Advanced, Find Now. And we would have already created that group. Here it is, Direct Access Client. So we can go ahead and click on it. So remember, before you even start to configure direct access, you would have to have those client computers in a group in Active Directory so you can select them. Go ahead and click on OK here and OK a second time. We have 2 choices here. Enable direct access for remote computers only and use force tunneling. If this one is checked, the first one, let's go ahead and check that one, then direct access is only going to be enabled for mobile computers. Then we have the second option, use force tunneling. And for this option, what we're really saying here is that when the client connects to the corporate network, we want the client to access the internet through the remote access server. So it is as if you were at work and you are accessing the internet from the client computer at work. Any configuration, any proxy settings that are set will apply to you once you access the internet through the remote access server. So, for example, if a user surfs the web and goes to a public website, the traffic will go through the direct access tunnel and back to the machine rather than going directly to the internet service provider. And generally, this is used for strict compliance with your network environment, where you want all the network traffic to go through a central gateway. We're clicking here on next to continue. And our next screen here lists the resource. And what this step here is trying to do is to find a resource on the internal network that the client can ping to ensure that the direct access client has successfully connected to the internal network. So you can simply put a network address there for a resource that you have. It's not recommended that you put all your resources there, but you just need something that the client can click on to ping to make sure that that client is connected. Then you have here a box for the help desk, and you can enter the help desk email address, and in the box below, the direct access connection name, and this name will show up as the name of the connection a user would use. You can also select Allow Direct Access Client to use local name resolution, and this will allow the direct access client to use the DNS server published by DHCP on the physical network they are connected to. At this point, we can go ahead and click on Finish. And we're now ready to go to step 2. So we're going to click on Configure. Step 2 is going to define configuration and network settings for the remote access server. So we click on Configure, and we have the type of topology that we need here. We have select network topology of the server, and you have choices. You have edge, behind an edge device with 2 network adapters, or behind an edge device with a single network adapter. With 2 network adapters, remote access can be configured, and we can also configure remote access with 1 network adapter connected directly to the internet. If we use the 2 network adapter scenario, 1 adapter can be connected directly to the internet and the other connected to the internal network. Or we can use the first option, where the server is installed behind an edge device such as a firewall or a router. In the single network adapter situation, the remote access server is usually installed behind an edge device, and the network adapter is connected to the internal network. We're going to choose here behind an edge device with a single network adapter. Now, we need to type the public name or IP address used by clients to connect to the remote access server, and that's usually your domain name. So we're going to click in the box and type dc.contoso.com. We type dc.contoso .com. Press enter. Okay. So we need to continue here by clicking on next. At this point, you want to select the internal network adapter. This is the adapter connected to the internal or perimeter network. And you also need to select a certificate. So at this point, if you don't have a certificate, you need to go into your MMC and configure a certificate. We're going to click on use a self-signed certificate here. And we are going to go ahead and click next. On the authentication page, we want to specify how direct access clients authenticate, whether they're going to be using computer certificates or whether you're just going to use two-factor authentication. We're going to click on use computer certificates here because we do have a certificate. So we're going to browse for that certificate. We're going to choose the first certificate here that we see, which is the root certificate, and click on OK. So remember, you have a choice. You can either use your Active Directory credentials to authenticate, or you can use two-factor authentication, which is the smart card and the password. And we are using a computer certificate here. At this point, you have a choice of enabling Windows 7 client computers to connect via direct access. And this is an exam question, or a question that you most likely would see in the exam. So we're going to click it here, enable Windows 7 client computers to connect via direct access. So remember, if you see that question, you know that that is configured within the remote access server setup wizard. We also have the option of enforcing corporate compliance for direct access clients with network access protection. And we're going to choose that one and go ahead and click next. We want to click on finish. And we want to move to step 3. And with step 3, we're going to be identifying the infrastructure servers accessed by direct access clients before connecting to internal resources. So we go ahead and click configure. Our first option on this screen is the network location server. Now, this is recommended, and the network location server is a server with a website running on it that the client can contact to ensure it has reached the internal network. The web page can simply be the default IIS web page, or it can be any other web page that the client would click on or access to make sure that the client is connected internally to the corporate network. But you just make sure that the website is not accessible externally. So in the box here, you would type the URL of that network location server, which in most cases would be your web server. If your network location server is deployed on the remote access server, and this means that you don't have to deploy the network location server on a separate web server. You can deploy it on this same server that you're configuring, which is remote access server, which we have done here. So we're going to click this choice. And we're going to need a certificate again. So we click on User Self-Sign Certificate, and we want to go ahead and click on Next. On the DNS page here, we see that we have the DNS server. And if you have any other DNS servers, you can also add a second DNS server if a second DNS server exists. We want to accept the option that says use local name resolution if the name does not exist in DNS or DNS servers are unreachable when the client computer is on the private network recommended. So we're going to leave that option, and we want to click on Next. On the DNS suffix search page, if you have another network, you want to add the DNS suffix, you can add that here on this option. We want to go ahead and click on Next. On the management page here, we want to click on Finish. We're moving now to our last option, which would be the application servers. So let's go ahead and click on Configure. And we want to accept the option Do not extend authentication to application servers. So we can go ahead and we can click on Finish. We can see a message here, the yellow exclamation. Some configuration changes have not been applied. Click Finish to apply the changes. So we go ahead and click Finish. And we look at the settings before we click Apply. We looked at what we have set up. We have configured direct access server settings, and we have also configured direct access client settings. And we want to click on Apply, and we can see that the configuration was applied successfully with some warnings. We want to close our message box. We want to close the remote access management console. We have gone through the 4 steps: configuring direct access server settings and configuring client settings. This is the end of our session on configuring direct access, and I want to thank you for listening.